Christina Taggart.
Hi, I'm Christina Taggart, and I'm here today because I have a lot of friends and loved ones in this community that will be affected by this bill. Just because someone doesn't match your ideology of what a man or woman should look like or be doesn't mean they should be discriminated against. That's judging a book by a cover, and we all know what they say about that. Don't do it. So I ask you to vote no on SB 270.
Thank you. Next, we have to speak against the bill Stephanie Gray. Stephanie Gray?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Stephanie Gray. I'm a resident of Conway, and I use they, them pronouns. I have been working with youth in sexual abuse and domestic violence for the last decade. I've worked in rape crisis centers, child advocacy centers, shelters, and I currently work for an organization working to prevent sexual abuse in religious communities. The proponents of this bill have claimed that this bill is necessary both for public safety and to prevent sexual violence against women, but particularly children, and that is what I would like to speak to today. As someone who has worked each and every day over the last decade to meet the needs of survivors and to reduce sexual assault, I can tell from both from my experience and my expertise that this is completely untrue. It is natural to be concerned about privacy and safety. I know the threat of sexual assault is very real and pervasive, as previous speakers have spoken personally about those fears. I have heard stories that could last me a lifetime of listening to children who have been victims of sexual assault. The safety fears that many have, especially those that are survivors of sexual assault, are not baseless or irrational, and they shouldn't be dismissed. However, this bill does nothing to decrease the risk of sexual assault. Hundreds of organizations in the United States have come out against bills like this, and those that work in violence prevention favor laws that protect transgender people from discrimination, including accessing bathrooms and changing rooms that match their gender. Transgender people, as other speakers have already said, experience unconsciously high rates of sexual assault. So we can actually prevent sexual assault with children. It can be done, and there are policies that I can recommend to every committee member in this room of how to actually do that. And I highly encourage Senator Payton, as he mentioned earlier, to create guidelines and codes of conduct that ensure privacy and bodily autonomy for those coming into his business. But all this bill does is push a political agenda that does nothing to serve and protect victims and potential victims. None of this is about protecting children. It is about demonizing difference. Instead of pretending that this is a reasonable debate about two sides where should we go to the bathroom or how to protect children, this is nothing more than a hate campaign. Do we want to discuss who abuses children? As a previous speaker says, statistically, it is always somebody that the child knows. It is a parent, a sibling, a neighbor, a religious leader. In 85% of cases, it is somebody that the child already knows. It is not strangers in bathrooms. As a survivor of child sexual assault, it wasn't a trans person that molested me. It was a neighbor. It was a family friend. When I was 5 years old, I wasn't afraid of trans people attacking me in a public bathroom. It was when I was playing in my backyard and I saw a figure coming into the background. In the 8 years that I was sexually molested, I never feared a trans person or somebody that was coming into a bathroom. If we really want to address the root causes of sexual abuse, this bill does everything to detriment that process. This bill serves as a distraction for the real work that needs to be done. This bill makes no one safer and only targets an already at-risk community. If you do care about children, do not pass this bill, and I will yield my time, Madam Chair, to any questions.
Are there any questions? Seeing no questions, thank you for your time today. Next, we have speaking against the bill, Sharon Williams.